My name is Ricia Chansky, and I'm sitting in Western Puerto Rico today. I'm out on the porch on a sunny day, and I'm talking with a student from the University of Puerto Rico at Mayagüez. Could you please introduce yourself to everyone today?
So, hi everybody. My name is Bryan Ramos Romero. I am a student, an English major student in the University of Puerto Rico at Mayagüez, and I'm currently residing in the northern part of the island in Camuy specifically.
Excellent. Bryan, how has sheltering in place been for you? What's changed, and how do you feel?
Well, at first it felt a bit strange in the way that everything's now so secluded. Everybody is so secluded, and everything has become so little. In many ways, everything has become so secluded. Everybody, like even the social environment. I've been in my house now for quite a while, a few weeks, almost about a month now, with my parents, my mother and my father, with my brother being gone in the States. So, and I've been coping with it just fine, I believe. It's been a definite change in the way that I move around my day, like being stripped away from so many social interactions, which I think are very vital for people. I think that
Yeah.
now, especially, uh, family interaction has become like first priority because now we took it for granted the way that we go out and buy some groceries, we talk to some friends, we meet with people, and all that has been taken away, for the correct reasons. And yeah, personally, I've been dealing with okay. It has affected me in the way that I feel that as if uh, time kind of loses its hold on people. Now everything doesn't run so strictly on time. Everything is kind of loose. Whether it be assignments from schools, even the way the government works has now been extremely loose. Everything that you would do, let's say in a day, or in a day, everything gets sidetracked. From the smallest thing as, let's say, going to the post office, it's like you
Yeah.
need to plan these things out because now there's this danger. And in a sense, it's made me a bit made me a bit more concerned and careful with things that I do, especially when I go outside, especially the things I touch, especially also personal hygiene and that sort of thing. I think
Yeah.
I've adapted well, but I've definitely seen how it's affected the way I go around my day for the most part.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Bryan. You're making me think so much of the aftermaths of the hurricane and that same kind of care that we had and planning that we had. And so I'm going to ask you my next question. You've been involved in the Mi Maria project for almost 2 years now, and that's our project studying the after effects of Hurricane Maria on Puerto Rico. And you've done so many different kinds of things. You've studied the gas shortages, you've studied food shortages, and you've studied homelessness and the loss of homes after the hurricane. Could you pick out one thing for us that really stands out to you as something that's made an impression on you from our project?
Well, I think specifically what has always stood out to me when I was investigating the project is how this how many of the work that I did brought a new insight in the inner workings of the government and many of its branches, whether it be on the most local branches, let's say your local police, to up to executive branches, more in the central government. I think that uh, something important is that it shows us what our government is capable of doing and what it's not, versus what it promises to do and what it doesn't end up doing. I think it's shed a light on how little dependent we have to be on the government and how more dependent on each other, like how poor the community can be in these types of situations, especially in the Mi Maria, where if I'm pretty sure if you ask anybody whether they would either whether they would rank from high to low the help of that they receive from the government versus the community, I believe the government would never pass the community. I think that that's one of the most important aspects that has been highlighted by the project. I think a lot of other things have been highlighted as well, but to me, the most impactful one that was essentially the role of the government and its reach in the community and how little that effect or that reach can be. And I there's been other more examples, other better examples. I wish I could be a bit more positive about the effects of the highlighting part of the project. But in reality, it's I think highlighting the most serious part of it, the most serious findings that I've made while working in this project is probably that. It's probably
Yeah,
the reach of the government and the
yeah.
community.
I feel so sad to hear that, Brian. And I think you're absolutely right that again and again, what we found in our research was that members of the community stood up to help each other when that government relief was not coming. And so my last question for you is a little bit of a challenging question. Now that we're all around the world faced with this global pandemic of COVID-19, how does this idea that you mentioned of community members helping each other over the government, how are you seeing that now in Puerto Rico and in the world?
Well, now specifically with this new pandemic, I think it's even if it's not particularly only the community, the local community, even things like the production of homemade masks. I've seen a lot of people making a mask for their neighbors. I've seen as close as my grandmother. I've seen her make masks for her neighbors and handing them out. And I've seen people giving out hand sanitizer to their neighbors. I've seen companies shift away from their main production and making things like hand sanitizers. Like breweries are starting to make hand sanitizers for people. I've seen like how the economy is shifting towards that pandemic instead of trying to live beside it, it's trying to adapt to the new environment. I think specifically the production of these materials are needed now specifically to deal with the pandemic.
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
I really liked how the economy has shifted in that sense. Many of the local businesses are starting now to even if at a loss of profit, they just shifted their production, they shifted their focus. I've seen even places that serve food. Just for example, they'll send food to you now. Everything is shifted towards you not getting infected, and I've been enjoying how, or even admiring how everybody is kind of working together to fight this. How everybody is slowly focusing on helping each other at a local level up to a more bigger level. And
Yeah.
I really, I think that's one of the most observable changes. It's the shape, it's the reshaping of the economy specifically, and a lot of things have been done to uh, specifically help the little guy, the community, the individuals of the community. Everywhere you go, there's even in small pharmacies specifically, I feel like many of them just giving out free masks. And even if this new social distance has created quite a divide between like almost has created a barrier between people, and now social interactions are quite less what they used to be. But you can see how everybody, even trying to distance themselves socially, you're still trying to reach out for their neighbor, for their friend,
Mm-hmm.
for their family member, and how the entire economy has basically shaped itself around the pandemic instead of trying to live outside of it, trying to escape it. Like let's say they're trying to uh, still sell what they used to sell before the pandemic and say no, it's now we're shaping ourselves to this new environment. And so the transition, so eventually when we go back to what things used to be, the impact was not so great. And even if the profits are not the same, which is something I really I really admire. Even the companies are the same. We're going to do the best we can to help our community, to help our people, our customers, whatever. It's always it's changing, and the government does its. Would some would argue it's best to help, but we're seeing things like the so-called task force and the whole mess that went to.
Yeah.
It's. I'm not trying to be overly pessimistic, but every time a disaster happens in the island, I end up trusting more what our local community says, what our community leaders say, what everybody except those in the government say. It's almost like, how can I trust them when everything they do is botched, everything is corrupted, not everything that's meant to help us just days later comes out that it ended up hindering us. And so I've been really just admiring that shape in the economy, that those
Nice.
small, big businesses and how they've helped us. And I've enjoyed seeing how people are now just really realizing what's important now. And it's not all about the money. It's more about our health. It's more. I've loved how they concentrated on what's really important, and that's our well-being as a community and as individuals.
Bryan, thank you very much for talking with me today. Stay safe and stay healthy, my friend.